It's no secret that the last few months for Philadelphia sports fans has been very, very tough. I mean, tougher than normal. I mean, the Phillies missed the playoffs for the 10th straight year. The Eagles are in the middle of a deep rebuild. And the Sixers are probably the biggest mess in the NBA currently. Personally speaking, a lot of my hope is going into the Flyers 2021-22 season right now. And of course you can say, oh, it's why would you do that? It's the Flyers. They always mess with you. They're always so inconsistent. Because of some sort of magic the Wells Fargo Center has, gritty magic, Broad Street Bully magic, whatever you want to call it, the Flyers are only seem to be good in even-numbered years. And I'm counting on that this year. I'm counting on that even-numbered magic, baby. So I'm going to do a whole brief Flyers season preview. And this is purely from a fan's perspective. If you want a more detailed video about the Flyers, go to the Hockey Guys channel. Watch Shannon's video on the Flyers. He's much better at analyzing stuff than me. And he's entertaining. So go watch him. From a Flyers fans' perspective video, this is my perspective on things. We need to make a lot of changes. Like, Chuck Fletcher had his hands full, and he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. And he did not do nothing. He did a lot. He did a lot to reshape this team, and specifically the defense. Because our defense last year, let's face it, that was horrendous. We gave up the most goals in the NHL, and that you couldn't run that back again. You had to make some serious changes to that, so old franchise faces such as Shane Gostisbehere, Jake Voracek, Robert Haig, Nolan Patrick, Brian Elliott, and even young guys like Phil Myers, like, they're all gone now. That's a good chunk of the lineup that was here last year. If you don't even want to count Michael Raffle, who got traded at the deadline last year, that's a whole bunch of players that have been around for a long time. They're no longer here. But in their place, we've got Ryan Ellis, Rasmus Ristolainen, two veteran defenders who should do a lot to help. And, of course, Keith Yandel, who's going to be our new power play quarterback, essentially, and is probably going to break the consecutive games played record this year. So that's cool. But I think also, other than that, I think he's going to be a good addition to both our team in the ice and in the locker room, because he seems like a very amicable guy. We also bring back Nate Thompson, specifically, I would say, to handle penalty kill duties, and Derek Brassard, who of course has experience with Alain Vigneault before, and at this point in his career is just a reliable, tough second to third line center that can be plugged in and can be counted on to give you valuable minutes. We do bring in Martin Jones too, Martin Jones from San Jose, who had a really decent start to his, not more than decent, he was actually really good at the start of his career with the Sharks after his time in LA, but last few seasons have been really rough for him. And at the same time, we have Carter Hart, our future goaltender. I'm wearing his jersey right here. And I think Carter Hart should take a bounce back here, because our defense pretty much left him out to dry the majority of last season. I mean, he wasn't perfect. He missed some easy saves. He overall just had a very miserable year, but I think most of that came down to just how poor the defense was. And now we've injected some real veteranosity, injected some real people who've been there and done that. Like, Ryan Ellis has been in Nashville for 10 years. And he's been in the playoffs pretty much every year. Rasmus Ristolainen, while he played for a really bad Buffalo team for a long time, I still think he has enough value that can bring to the team. He's a heavy hitter. He's skilled enough. He's not just like a goon, too. He's not just a guy who's out there purely to get under people's skins. It's a real skill of his, but at the same time, I feel like he's skilled enough to the point where he can actually log decent minutes. I'm not saying first pairing, and I'll get to the whole line breakdown and why I predict the line is going to be going forward. But I think he can be a valuable asset to this team. And we did bring in Cam Atkinson, who, one of the biggest critiques of the Flyers is that they like to pass way more than they like to shoot. We have a bunch of great playmakers on this team. Like, Claude Giroux is arguably one of the best playmakers in the NHL in the last 15 years. But we needed a guy like Cam Atkinson, who we got from the Blue Jackets in trade for Jake Voracek, to come in and have that shoot-first mentality. And I already like Cam Atkinson. I think he's another guy that's going to fit in well here. And I think the fans are going to really take to him, too. So, here's what I have my line projections as thus far. And keep in mind, the start of the season. This is the start of the season. So, Kevin Hayes, unfortunately, is going to miss a good first 1 to 2 months of the year. Wade Allison as well. So those were two guys that got really good playing time, at least towards the end of the season in Wade Allison's case. So I'm going to get future Philly Sports here to put up a thing right here. Thank you. So this is what I have, at least to start the season, in terms of what I think the line projections are going to be. And defensive pairings, I'll get to that too. Giroux, Sean Couturier, Travis Konechny would be a good thing to start. Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost, and yes, Morgan Frost, he's young. He's a little bit inexperienced, but I feel like he needs to at least get second or third. Hey, and I'll get to, and Derek Brassard, maybe you can slot him up to the second line center, at least to start. And then Cam Atkinson as the right winger. Now they got JVR, Derek Brassard, or Morgan Frost, depending on what AV wants to do. Scott Lawton, Oscar Lindblom, Nate Thompson, and Nick Bill, the fourth line grind guys. And Oscar, I feel like he's much better than a fourth liner. He's probably going to be one of the best fourth liners in the league. But I think that's a good place for him to start. I still think he's easing his way back into the NHL grind after what happened to him, and then he's still such a warrior for continuing to play after what happened. Always got a soft spot for Oscar now. Now, here's what I have in terms of D pairings to start the season at least. Obviously, Ivan Provorov, and he's got a new partner in Ryan Ellis, who's basically the replacement for Matt Niskanen that we never bothered to replace last year. And you have Travis Sanheim and Rasmus Osterleinen. And I think Rasmus Osterleinen and Sanheim can benefit a lot from this pairing. In fact, that I think Rasmus Osterleinen, I don't think he's a first pairing guy, and I think that was proved in Buffalo. And I feel like him matched up with Sanheim, like two taller, more physically imposing defensemen working together. I think that can really work. And the two old veteran guys in their early to mid 30s, Keith Yandel and Justin Braun, can take up the third pairing as of right now. And of course, if something happens, I feel like we have two really good players in Lehigh Valley right now that can come up and replace if anything happens to any of these defensemen. And that's obviously Cam York and Igor Zamula. And those two guys have been showing a lot of promise lately. And I feel like both of them are NHL ready. We'll just have to see what happens earlier on in the season. Overall predictions for this Flyer season, it's tough. It is really tough because this team could either be really, really good, almost on the same level as they were before the COVID shutdown, but they also could be just as bad as they were last year. We don't know. This team is a mystery. But I'm going to put up right now what I project the Metro Division standings are going to be. This is my prediction too. I'm not going to be overzealous and predict them to win the cup. I'm not that kind of fan. But this is what I have right here. Now, I do think the Flyers are going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to do it as a wild card. If you make the playoffs in the NHL, anything can happen. That's just how it is. It's a crapshoot. But I do think that they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to have a dominant regular season. I think they're going to be in the middle of the pack of the very tough Metro Division. So I actually have the Islanders finishing first, as you can see right here, because I feel like after dominating in the playoffs as a lower seed the last few years, I feel like they actually take a step in the regular season to then they actually become a great regular season team this time. Capitals, I don't see them going anywhere with the talent that they have. Hurricanes, while a lot of their moves in the offseason I feel like were questionable, I still think they're a really, really good team that should easily make the playoffs. Then I have the Flyers, which I feel like should, based on their talent and what they've done to fix their issues, I don't think it's me being a homer and thinking that, or some superstitious even year guy thinking that they should make the playoffs this year. I will be disappointed if they didn't make the playoffs, but I at least would understand because it's the Flyers and there's so hard to predict what they're going to do. Then I have the Penguins, and I feel like the Penguins will get that second wildcard spot because it's the Penguins, and they seemingly use their devil magic every year to never drop off and miss the playoffs. Yeah, Crosby and Malkin are going to be out for a while, but it doesn't matter. Pittsburgh is going to make the playoffs either way because it doesn't make any sense. They honestly should have fallen off by now, like the Kings did after their cups, and like the Blackhawks did after their cups. but they just haven't done it. And I'm not going to predict them to fall off until they actually do. So I have the Pittsburgh making the playoffs as the second wild card. Then they have the Rangers. I mean, they're still building. They basically created their entire team now just to fight Tom Wilson. But I still think that they're like a year or two away. Same thing with the Devils. I know they're building. They got Dougie Hamilton. They made some nice moves, but I still feel like they're still like a year or two away from like competing for a playoff spot. Then I have like Columbus at last, which I don't think is not going to be that surprising. Who knows? They might shock everyone like they did after they lost Panarin, Duchesne, and Bobrovsky, but I don't think it's that presumptuous to say that they're going to finish last. They literally just trade all away some of their best players. I mean, it's very obvious that they're going through a rebuild. I can see the Flyers take a big step up and do that even year thing where they take a big step up as a team, or they can just remain stagnant and be exactly where they were last year, which was really, really rough and really, really hard to watch. And a lot of it's going to depend on Carter Hart. I mean, Carter Hart, him having a bounce back year is imperative to the success of this team this year. Absolutely. And I have faith in him. I really do. I think he showed me enough in his first few seasons in the NHL that he has what it takes. And if you get a good team in front of him, have a good defense in front of him, he can succeed. I feel like he can do really well with a team that actually has his back and doesn't give up prime scoring chances that would fit him. Overall, I see the Flyers as a playoff team. 4th in the Metro, first wild card. And this is going to be a big year, not only because it's always important to make the playoffs and have a good season, but this is Claude Giroux's potential. This could be his last year in Philadelphia, and I don't want to see that happen. But I see if the Flyers have a really, really bad year like they did last year, I know Claude obviously loves like playing in Philadelphia. That's why he stuck around for so long. But who knows? Maybe he wants to try something else. Maybe he wants to win a ring somewhere else before his career ends. And maybe if that, I don't want to even think about that. But if we have a good year, maybe everything will come back and we'll run it back the next year and hopefully don't fall off because that's an odd year and Flyers don't really do typically that well in odd years. So overall, those are my thoughts on the upcoming Philadelphia Flyers 2021-2022 season from a Flyers fan's perspective.